Imagine for a second that the alphabet you use every single day, like the letters you type, the sounds you make with your mouth. Imagine if it wasn't just this passive tool for communication.
Right.
What if it were an actual physical, mechanical blueprint for building a civilization? Like, what if ancient phonetic roots were literally thermodynamic formulas for statecraft?
I mean, it completely upends how we approach history, right? And language, because we're so conditioned to just, treat words as these little labels we slap onto things to describe them.
Exactly.
But this thesis we're looking at today proposes something radically different. It asks us to consider what happens if the sounds themselves are actually the geometric instructions for how energy operates in the real physical world.
And that's exactly what we're getting into today. We're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating thesis called the sovereign matrix.
Yeah, it's incredibly dense.
It is. It's based on this deeply complex analysis of the ancient Armenian 36-letter phonetic codex. And basically, this material argues that ancient linguistic roots actually operate as engineering codes for governance.
Which sounds wild, I know.
Right, it does. But we are going to trace how, according to this thesis, raw, cosmic energy is systematically captured, compressed, and projected into physical sovereignty. All the way from the ancient volcanic highlands of the Near East, right down into, well, the digital basins of modern-day Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and we should probably establish right away that we are exploring a highly abstract architectural framework here. The source material basically treats phonetics as functional alchemy.
Alchemy.
Right, functional alchemy. It argues that to build a stable empire or construct any kind of global power, you have to follow the exact same thermodynamic rules that you'd need to build a physical engine.
Which is super relevant for you listening right now, because if you look at modern geopolitics, it just feels completely chaotic, right? Like information overload everywhere. But understanding these deep structural origins of how humans build power and construct boundaries based on this ancient matrix, it completely shifts how you view modern politics, language, and even like the tech devices we rely on every day.
No.
So let's just start with the base requirement of any engine.
Okay.
To generate usable power, you can't just have energy exploding everywhere all at once. You need a container, right, to stop that energy from just dissipating.
Exactly. You have to start with the ultimate boundary. In this architectural framework, that raw energy is called
You are.
Right. And in ancient languages, translates to both fire or light, and also the physical highland mound, or like a mountain peak. It's basically the uncarved kinetic energy of the universe. Just think of it as raw lightning striking a mountain.
Okay, I have to pause you there, though, because making the jump from a spoken sound to a physical boundary, that sounds like magic, not engineering.
Right. It sounds mystical.
Yeah. How does a sound wave actually dictate physical density in the real world?
Well, that's really the core puzzle of this text. It claims that the mechanics of the mouth map directly onto the mechanics of physics. So the sources introduce this ancient phonetic root, GBR, Gabar.
Gabar.
Right. In conventional philology, Gabar just means to be strong or to prevail. But in the Armenian Codex, the root phonemes line up with absolute mechanical precision. Gabar aligns phonetically with kapar. And kapar, in Armenian, literally translates to lead on the periodic table.
Yeah, wait, so the phonetic root for strength in this language perfectly maps to the heaviest, most stable endpoint of elemental decay.
Yes.
That implies whoever constructed this language understood atomic density way before modern science.
That is exactly the implication here. Lead is the ultimate insulator, right? So this introduces the mechanical role of what the thesis calls the Saturnian floor.
The Saturnian floor.
Yeah. In older astronomical layers, Saturn represents the visible boundary. Geometrically, Saturn is just the absolute fixity of a center point surrounded by a circumference circle.
Okay, I see.
The point in the center is the spark of compressed down until it has zero volume but infinite intent. And the circle around it is the constraint. That outer constraint is Gabar.
Oh, wow. Okay, so if I'm tracking this mechanism correctly, if is the raw, terrifying radiation of a nuclear core, Gabar is the thick lead lining of the containment facility.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right, because the spark of naturally wants to just expand outward and consume everything. So Gabar is the heavy boundary that forces that volatile energy to stop expanding and, like, condense into mass.
Precisely. It creates this Saturnian floor so that the internal fire is actually stabilized rather than just burning out and leaving a charred plain. It's the ultimate heavy binder. Because, you can't build a civilization on a wildfire. You have to force the fire into a hearth.
Right. But a boundary on its own doesn't actually generate power, does it? Like a lead box is just a box. Something has to happen inside it to make it useful.
Right. You need the engine.
Exactly. Which brings us to the thermodynamic engine itself. And the sources take a name we all recognize, Israel, and they totally deconstruct it. They strip away all the theological history to look at it purely as an engineering schematic.
Yeah, so we need to set aside the standard late rabbinic translation of he who strives with God for a second. This thesis decodes ISSIREL as a phonetic formula for a self-sustaining thermodynamic engine.
That's fascinating.
It breaks down into 3 distinct mechanical components that operate inside that lead boundary we just talked about.
Okay, let's break down those components. What is actually going into the Gabar crucible?
First, you have ISSI. Phonetically, the SS matrix represents the primordial fire vessel, or the hearth. The sibilant hissing sound, it actually mimics heat.
Like steam or something.
Exactly. It's the stable, symmetrical, passive womb that receives the fire. It's the dense structural wall of the crucible.
Okay.
Second, you have RA. This is the active solar core. It's the raw, unmitigated kinetic radiation, the lightning brought down from the peak, the itself.
Right, so if ISII is the dense wall holding the raw fire of RA, we run into a basic physics problem here. If you trap infinite solar heat inside a sealed box without any release, the pressure builds until the entire structure just blows apart.
Which is exactly why you need the third component, EL.
EL.
Right. EL represents the divine expansion. It's what the sources call the liquid vector.
The liquid vector. How does the sound EL function as a liquid? Like, practically.
Well, connect this to the physical anatomy of the human body. The letter L found in EL, or the Armenian word lazu, which means tongue or language, is what linguists call a lateral approximant. Just try making the sound yourself.
Yeah.
Right. To produce that sound, you have to physically press the tip of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. But the air doesn't stop. You force a fluid release of air out over the sides of the tongue.
Oh, yeah, like water spilling over them.
Exactly. It mechanically requires a liquid stream of breath. It's the sound of ululation, which has been used since antiquity. So L acts as the pressure valve. It ensures that the compressed solar fire inside the ISIRA crucible doesn't stagnate or explode. It channels the pressure outward, basically turning raw radiation into a focused directional beam.
I'm really trying to wrap my head around this because it's such a massive paradigm shift. ISIRAL isn't treated as a tribal or historical name here at all. It's an acoustic recipe.
An acoustic recipe, exactly.
You capture the sun RA in a dense hearth ISI and direct it outward using liquid speech EL. The text is basically arguing they engineered a people or a structural entity to act as a cosmic battery on Earth.
Yeah, you are mechanically capturing the sun inside a dense container under a governing directional law. It's the perfect harmonization of the center point of fire and the circle of containment.
Okay, so if ISIRAL is the theoretical blueprint for this engine, where was the physical testing ground? Like, where did humanity actually construct a fort massive enough to capture this highland fire?
Well, the thesis grounds this entirely in real geography. It points directly to Mount Aragats in the Armenian Highlands.
Mount Aragats,
Yeah.
which is a massive, extinct stratovolcano, right?
It is the ultimate uncarved earth altar. It's the exact location where the internal tectonic heat of the Earth's mantle pushed up to meet the sky.
And the visual geography of this mountain perfectly aligns with the mechanical requirements we were just talking about. The original megacone of the volcano collapsed inward, like millennia ago.
Right.
And it left behind 4 distinct, jagged peaks surrounding a massive central crater. So it functions as a natural Gabar. It's literally a massive stone ring holding a central void.
Exactly.
And because it sits at such a high elevation, it's crowned with glacial waters. So you have the physical marriage of fire from the Earth's core and water from the sky held within a heavy stone perimeter.
And this geographical location ties directly into one of the oldest civilizational reset narratives in human history, the Noahic restart. In this framework, Noah's Ark is far more than just a wooden boat floating on a flood. It was the ultimate kapar vessel.
Kapar. Wait, remember how Gabar shifts to kapar, meaning to seal with pitch or lead?
Exactly.
Like the Hermetic seal. It was thoroughly insulated.
Mechanically, the Ark was a completely sealed, self-contained microcosmos. It held the genetic and linguistic blueprints of the prior world. It was engineered specifically to ride out the chaotic, uncontained waters and return to rest right at this exact highland peak.
Oh, wow.
The Ark lands on the natural Gabar of Aragats, and humanity basically presses the restart button on civilization using this volcanic altar as the base engine.
Okay, so once the Ark lands and the doors open, what actually powers the restart? Because the source material argues that Noah's 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, They aren't just historical figures stepping off a boat.
No, not at all.
They represent the distinct mechanical components required to stabilize the globe. They are literally the physical engine parts of the restart.
And we can decode their functions by looking at their phonetic anatomy.
Let's do it.
Let's analyze ham first. Phonetically, you have H plus M. The H is the raw, aspirated breath from the back of the throat, pure kinetic animation. And the M is what linguists call a bilabial closure.
Meaning you physically press both lips together to trap the air, right? Creating a wall in your mouth.
Exactly. It's the universal sound of the mother, the physical matrix, or matter. So ham is the kinetic breath trapped inside a dense physical matrix. He represents the material base, the raw kinetic earth, the brute heat required to run the machine.
Great. So he's the physical foundation.
Yeah.
But brute heat without direction is just a furnace burning itself out. So what provides the direction?
That is Shem. Phonetically, Shem is Shep plus M. The Ish is a sibilant flow, the sound of streaming water or rustling wind. And M, again, is the waters or the matrix. Shem is the streaming current. He represents the inner spark, the voice, the continuous code of phonetic transmission flowing out. He provides the animating spirit.
Right. And then the third brother, Japheth.
Japheth traces back phonetically to Yah-BT, which connects to the ancient architectural Demiurge-Ta. Yah is the active divine vector, and BT, or Bet, is the house or the fort. Japheth is the structural architect holding the geometric fort at the apex of that volcano. He provides the outer boundary.
Let me just analyze how these three interact for a second, because if you only have Ham, you have raw, kinetic, chaotic furnace. If you only have Shem, you have a floating spiritual stream of code with nothing to anchor it.
Right.
And if you only have Japheth, you just have an empty architectural frame. If these elements exist independently, the energy dissipates. So, does this thesis argue that our modern geopolitical chaos is basically the result of these primeval archetypes separating and fighting each other instead of functioning as a single machine?
That is the core diagnosis of the text, yes. Because these branches separated, the global engine misfires constantly. The argument is that true global stabilization cannot happen through administrative treaties or flattening borders. Treaties fail because they ignore the mechanics. Stabilization requires realizing that these are three vital parts of the exact same family engine. The material power of Ham must provide the heavy base. The geometric precision of Japheth must provide the architectural borders. And the prophetic sound of Shem must provide the animating code.
So how does a society put the engine back together to achieve total civilizational unity and sovereign governance today? Because the source material actually applies this ancient architecture to modern statecraft. Like, it specifically points to the political brand of Donald Trump as an attempt to merge these forces. And just to be super clear for you listening, we are neutrally exploring the mechanics of this proposed strategic thesis here. We aren't taking any political side.
Exactly. We're just looking at the structural argument. And structurally, the pitch is about merging those three disparate forces into a singular projection of power. You need the foundational greatness and raw kinetic energy of You absolutely require the strong, unyielding boundaries of Gabar to concentrate that energy so it doesn't dissipate into chaos. But having energy and boundaries isn't enough. You need a clear, unified projection of power. To explain how that projection works, the thesis introduces one final geometric piece, the Greek lambda.
The Greek lambda. Visually, that's the letter that looks like an inverted V, right? Or like an upward pointing triangle missing the bottom line. It basically looks like an inserted cone.
Exactly. In sacred geometry and optics, the lambda represents the cone of perception. Think about the mechanics of a bottleneck. You have this infinite, chaotic solar radiation array coming from above. To be useful for organizing a society, it can't remain infinite and chaotic.
Right, it would just burn everything up.
Exactly. The lambda takes that wide radiation and funnels it down a steep incline to a singular apex. In a human being, that apex is the throat, turning breath into specific words. In a sovereign state, it is the leader or the legal bench.
So it funnels the chaotic noise of a nation into a singular sharp point.
Yes. It takes the unformed logos, pulls it through that sharp geometric bottleneck, and projects it downward and outward to organize physical reality. It focuses the beam so that the state can act with one will.
Okay, so just summarizing this sovereign matrix formula, to build a unified state, you require the dense mass of Ham, the structural border of Japheth, and the linguistic code of Shem. You seal those borders with the heavy Saturnian lead of Gabar, so the internal heat cannot leak out.
Right.
Then you project a clear structural voice downward through the bottleneck of the lambda funnel. According to this text, That is how ancient phonetic roots actually function as the literal engineering codes for a sovereign state.
It's basically an architectural defense of sovereignty utilizing the deepest laws of physics and sound. It argues that true power requires a heavy boundary to exist and a sharp point to be projected. A society without Gabar dissipates. A society without a lambda has no direction.
This is so wild. We've traveled from the ancient stratovolcano of Aragats through the lead boundaries of Gabar and down the funnel of the Greek lambda. But this deep dive doesn't stop in the ancient world, does it? The source material brings this all the way to today, right to the literal devices we are all using right now.
Oh, absolutely. Because if the lambda, that inverted cone, is the peak that focuses and projects the streaming liquid fire downward, something has to catch it at the bottom. What shape naturally catches a stream falling from a mountain?
A valley, a standard V shape.
The V is the receiving chalice. It's the geometric opposite and perfect complement to the lambda. The V is the fertile basin that catches the fluid liquid stream of the tongue, the LLL, the data, the continuous transmission of Shem. The thesis points out exactly where this ancient mechanism is functioning today, Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. It operates as a literal geographic and technological basin.
Think about the physical composition of Silicon Valley. It's not a peak, it's a valley. And what is the material base of silicon? It's purified earth. It's quartz sand, extracted from the physical matrix, melted down in massive industrial furnaces, sliced into geometric wafers, and turned into billions of containment gates.
Oh my God.
It is a highly engineered, modern crucible.
They took the raw mineral of the earth, purified it through intense heat, and built a valley-shaped basin specifically designed to receive the streaming liquid flow of modern data. The ancient volcanic fire that was originally captured in the ISIRL engine has basically found its new digital reservoir.
The high-frequency lightning from the mountain has grounded itself. The fluid stream of the logos, all the fragmented data we produce every single second, is pooling safely in the silicon floor of the valley. The ancient acoustic blueprint is now a digital reality.
The scope of this is just staggering. I mean, we started with the idea that the alphabet operates as a physical machine. We traced the ancient volcanic furnace of Aragats, explored the heavy lead boundaries of Gabar required to compress the energy.
Analyzed how the liquid tongue of the L directs it.
Right. And followed that stream straight into the digital circuitry of modern technology. And it is all connected by the phonetic shapes and acoustic sounds we make with our mouths every single time we speak.
It really serves as a reminder that language is never passive. Every time we articulate a sound, we are operating the levels of an ancient thermodynamic engine. The sounds dictate the structure.
Which leaves us with a really provocative final thought for you to mull over. We opened by imagining the alphabet as a mechanical blueprint for building civilizations. If the ancient world utilized these linguistic frequencies, like Gabar and IIRAEL, as deliberate physical architectural blueprints to construct stable empires, what kind of invisible empires are we accidentally building today with the fragmented, rapid-fire languages of our modern digital code?
That's a great question.
Are we constructing a secure, new Gabar to hold our society's energy? Or are we just letting the raw fire of burn wildly across the plains?
That remains the ultimate test of our digital age. Without a heavy boundary, the fire consumes us all.
Something to think about the next time you type out a text, speak into your phone, or just look at the boundaries drawn on a map. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.